The Patriots bungle a winnable game against Seattle. We'll break it down here on Pat's Cast.
Overtime blues, man, we're feeling so low. Pass protection crumble, that's how it goes. So many mistakes, just can't get it right, but we keep it close.
Welcome to Pat's Cast. I'm Brad Whitaker. Visit expressvpn.com/PatsCast to get 3 months off of a 12-month annual plan. Again, that is expressvpn.com/PatsCast. The Patriots lose 23-20 in an overtime game against the Seattle Seahawks, and what really was a winnable game. And if you look at the box score and look at all the mistakes the Patriots made throughout this game, you wouldn't think it would be that close, especially with the way Geno Smith played. 33 of 44, 327 yards with a touchdown. Geno Smith looked great, very different from the Geno Smith we've seen in Foxborough when he was with the New York Jets. But Patriots just one too many mistakes in this one, which ultimately led to the loss. They did a lot of things out there I liked, but overall, reason they lost is a couple defensive mistakes, but mostly Jacoby Brissett just did not have the pass protection he needed all game long, especially in the second half. Yeah, Brissett was able to make some plays, extend plays with his legs in the first half, but that pocket started collapsing a little quicker in the second half, and he had less room to maneuver there, and it was really ultimately a pretty rough game for him. 15 of 27 for 149 yards. The vast majority of those passing yards came in the first half when this game looked like it was going to be a shootout, but ultimately the Patriots could not generate enough offense in the air to win this game. Good game from Antonio Gibson and Ramondre Stevenson, but a grand total of 3 catches from the Patriots wide receivers, not counting the tight ends in there. Just 2 catches from Jalen Polk. One was a touchdown pass, the first of his career. Then the other came from KJ Osborne. But receivers didn't seem to be separating, didn't seem to be getting open. Seattle was stacking the box a little, but for the most part, their defensive backs did what they needed to do against the Patriots, really in single coverage most of the game. And Patriots were able to get a lot of yards on the ground once again, but it ultimately was not enough. Patriots went a lot with 12 personnel. You got your 2 tight ends and your 2 wide receivers out there. That kind of is the bread and butter of this Alex Van Pelt offense. They also did mix in Caden Wallace quite a bit in a jumbo tight end package, meaning Caden Wallace was playing tight end as an extra blocker out there. And that's how they were able to generate quite a few yards on the ground, with Ramondre Stevenson having 81 yards on 21 carries. And then Antonio Gibson having a pretty strong game on the ground. We all thought he was kind of there as the James White third down pass catching back, but ended up getting 96 yards on 11 carries. So a really solid game there from Antonio Gibson. But really, the reason the Patriots lost this game was because of 2 horrible mistakes. One happening early in the game, one happening later in the game. The first happened, the Patriots were in zone coverage, not communicating well. The Seattle Seahawks going no huddle. And because of that miscommunication, they were playing zone. Christian Gonzalez passed off DK Metcalf to Kyle Duggar, who picked up on it too late. Metcalf ran downfield in a vertical route, had a very easy touchdown on that play. And then the Patriots had a chance to extend the lead to 6 points with just a couple minutes left in the game, forcing Seattle to go the full length of the field, which would have been very difficult for them. But it was a blocked field goal, Joey Sly's first missed field goal as a member of the New England Patriots. That was the key play for Seattle that ultimately allowed them to march down the field a little bit, get the game-tying field goal, and then the Patriots really couldn't do much in overtime. Caden Wallace ended up having to come in at left tackle because Vidarian Lowe went out with an injury. Not like he was having a great game. None of the offensive linemen were having a good game, at least in pass protection. The run blocking was okay, but not in pass protection. And then Caden Wallace didn't report as a tight end when they went back to the jumbo tight end package. Patriots got penalized. Didn't generate any offense in overtime. And then the Patriots had a chance to stop Seattle and force them to punt or take a very long field goal. Took a risk blitzing on third down in overtime. Almost got to Geno Smith, but he ultimately checked the ball down to Charbonnet, who is a bit quiet today. Their backup running back, but was their starter with Kenneth Walker down today, and he picked up a first down on that check down. I don't know if it was a halfback screen or a check down. It was kind of hard to tell, but the Patriots took a risk there. Blitzing in overtime, it didn't pay off. Seahawks got into field goal range and then just kicked the game-winning field goal with Myers, and that was all she wrote. And that's the thing. The Patriots were not as buttoned up as they were week one against the Cincinnati Bengals, and as I've been saying on this podcast, there's no margin for error for this team. And considering the errors they made today, the margin was wider than I was expecting. They honestly should have lost this game by a lot more, and they had plenty of opportunities to win it late here. But ultimately, those mistakes with the defensive backs, blown zone coverage, and it didn't work out really well. And then the Patriots made some adjustments in the second half that worked out well initially for most of the third quarter and probably most of the fourth quarter, where they started playing a soft zone and playing Christian Gonzalez back on DK Metcalf. And it worked pretty well for the most part until the Seahawks started taking advantage of it. They started checking down to the middle of the field, to their running backs, to Charbonnet, to the tight ends on crossing routes. And the Patriots just kind of gave them too many easy short yardage plays there as they dinked and dunked their way back into the football game after the Patriots took the lead in the fourth quarter. And that's how Seattle was able to make it work. And Patriots defense didn't adjust, I think, again in the second half the way they should have. Yeah, they made a strong adjustment going into that soft zone in the second half, and it worked pretty well. But then they should have been a little bit more aggressive and played up on the receivers a little more, and they didn't make that decision. They didn't play a lot of man there, at least from what I saw. I got to watch the film a little bit. Maybe they were playing a little more man than I was expecting. Didn't blitz a ton, it didn't look like today, but they did blitz at key moments, but it didn't pay off as we saw that last play in overtime. But look, we know they can run the ball, and it's not so much that they run the ball well with the wide zone scheme. It looks like they were mixing and matching a lot with duos and power runs and the wide zone and all that, similar to what they did in week one. And it's good that they were still able to generate offense on the ground when Seattle knew the Patriots were going to run the ball, and they were still getting first downs. They had a really great touchdown drive on the ground in the second half with Antonio Gibson breaking free on some big runs, and Ramondre Stevenson contributing to that as well. But you're not going to win in the National Football League if you can't score in the air. And Patriots were able to kind of control the game in the second half and play their style of clock management, run the football, but ultimately they weren't able to do much on these bootlegs that they attempted to do, or the few play actions that they ran. And Jacoby Brissett just did not have enough room to escape and extend plays with his legs like he could in the first half, and that was really the reason they lost. But, you got to give Seattle a lot of credit. They made the big plays down the stretch, the blocked field goals. Geno Smith had as close to a perfect game as you could expect against this Patriots defense. Keon White was still a factor out there. Geno Smith was facing quite a bit of pressure all game, had 3 sacks for 15 yards. But ultimately, it just wasn't enough. And the Patriots, their sacks were much worse. 3 sacks on Jacoby Brissett for 24 yards, but really there should have been like 6 or 7 sacks there. Jacoby Brissett did bail out the Patriots a number of times when it looked like he was about to go down, was able to get rid of the football and just throw it at the feet of the receivers in front of him. But not a lot of separation out there from the receivers. I talked about Jalen Polk on the podcast this past week and how he had a ton of separation week one despite only having 1 catch for 6 yards. We'll have to see if it was a similar story when the film comes out for this week. But he did have the lone passing touchdown this week. Hunter Henry had an incredible first half, had almost 100 yards receiving in the first half, and then I think only just had 1 catch or 2 in the second half. But he ultimately had eight receptions for 109 yards. Really the only guy who was able to get anything going in the passing game was Hunter Henry on those passes up the middle, which is a staple of this Alex Van Pelt offense. You really want to get the tight ends involved, going with those 12 personnel packages, but Patriots really, the only thing that ultimately worked was passing the ball to the tight ends in the first half. Seattle kind of took that away in the second half, and then all they really had to work with the receivers unable to get open, with the pass protection struggling, the only thing that worked was bringing in Caden Wallace as that extra blocker at tight end. So you basically have 3 tackles out there, and they were able to run the ball pretty effectively in the second half doing that. But when it came to crunch time late and the Patriots had to rely on the passing game, they just couldn't do anything. And that's the story of this team right now, is that the offensive line, they are who we thought they were. And yeah, they're a little better at run blocking than I think we thought. The wide zone stuff is still kind of messy, but the power run, the duos, Antonio Gibson relying on him on the ground a lot more. Not really doing a lot with JaMycal Hasty. I thought he would kind of be the second power back, but it really is just Stevenson and Gibson. But we know they can run the ball. They just need to give some time for Jacoby Brissett, and he was working with little to no pocket there in the second half. And, we're going to be talking about Drake May, and can Drake May make some of those plays? And yeah, there were a few throws that I think Jacoby Brissett made that it would have been a little more accurate, I would think, if Drake May was throwing on the run. There may have been some plays in the second half where Drake May perhaps could have escaped pressure better than Jacoby, but even if Drake May was out there and playing the top of his game and not turning the ball over, I don't think it would have made much of a difference today. So you can't really lay the blame too much on Jacoby Brissett. He worked with what he had, which wasn't much with that offensive line. And that's going to be a challenge in 4 days when they go up against the New York Jets on Thursday Night Football. It's the New York Jets home opener. We know they're going to be ready to play in that environment. And if Darian Lowe's not ready to go and you have to put Caden Wallace out there at left tackle, then you're not going to be able to run these tight end jumbo packages and run the football the way you were able to today. Not to mention, you're going up against a Jets defense that is very good at defending the run, an even better pass rush than what Seattle has. Patriots have their work cut out for them. I think we're looking at a 1-3 start right now, if I'm being honest. Even though San Francisco struggled today, that's still going to be a tough game week 4. But maybe the Patriots can make it interesting on Thursday on a short week. But I think the big difference we saw today compared to Cincinnati is Seattle is a well-conditioned team, unlike the Bengals. They took week 1 and week 2 very seriously this year. They clearly had a tough training camp. And I think Mike Macdonald was ultimately the better coach out there, although I think both Mayo and Macdonald struggled a little bit with the clock management, especially late in the first half. But Seattle just made a few more adjustments that the Patriots weren't able to make. I think the Patriots made some great halftime adjustments, but those in-game adjustments are still something that Gerard Mayo is going to have to get better at. And he's a rookie head coach. Like, that's the learning curve, right? Is how you manage the game, how you adjust when you have your players on the field and you don't have a lot of time to work with, when you're not in the locker room. But the adjustments just were not enough. I really think the defense should have kind of abandoned that soft zone a little bit in the fourth quarter once it was clear that Seattle was able to kind of dink and dunk their way down the field. And that was the reason they ultimately won the game, along with the missed field goal from Joey Sly that got blocked. But, this is a Patriots team that we expected to start 0-4, right? And this was a game that they could have won. Perhaps they should have won. And, had a couple of things gone their way. Had they not blown the coverage early in the game to DK Metcalf, had that field goal not been blocked, then yeah, they would have won this football game. Had they been able to run the ball a little bit better late in the fourth quarter, it could have been okay. But they were unable to do much, especially early in the third quarter too. It looked like they were generating quite a bit of offense, at least on the ground in the first half, but they had 3 straight 3-and-outs at the beginning of the third quarter before they went back to that tight end jumbo package. Too many mistakes. Ramondre Stevenson had a fumble. Again, he needs to hold on to the football. Antonio Gibson, I know he had a good game on the ground today, but I still want to see him more as that third down pass catching back, because as we saw in Washington last year, he has trouble holding on to the football. Yeah, he hasn't fumbled it yet this season. I know that, but that could be an issue with Stevenson and Gibson unable to hold on to the football as they continue to rely on the running game this season. But, pass protection, that's the real issue. And, as much as I criticize the defense and the lack of adjustments late, I think really if Jacoby Brissett just had a little bit more time to throw the football, Patriots could have won this game easily. But they played the game they wanted in the second half, but weren't able to make the key plays down the stretch, and that's why they lost ultimately in overtime. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Do you agree on my assessment on some of the second half adjustments the Patriots made? Do you think they should have been a little bit more aggressive on defense? And I'm not talking about blitzing. I'm talking about a little bit more man, less of a soft zone. Let me know in the comments below. I'm curious to hear from you. And what do you think they should do offensively? Do you think they should continue to run the ball like this? Do you think they should continue to do these jumbo tight end packages, even if Vidarian Lowe isn't available? Curious to hear from you. Let me know in the comments below. We'll be back throughout this short week to cover the Patriots, and we'll certainly be back Thursday night after the game against the New York Jets. If you like this video, be sure to smash that like button on YouTube, subscribe to the channel, hit that notification bell, or subscribe if you're listening on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. We'll be back throughout the rest of the week.
Overtime blues, man, we're feeling so low. Pass protection crumble, that's how it goes. So many mistakes, just can't get it right, but we keep it close, fighting through the night. Seattle took us down, but we're standing tall. Gritted hard, we give it our all. Mistakes on the field dragging us back, but the spirit of the game we ain't gonna lack. Cast, echoing the heartache, the fight. Each game, a battle under the stadium lights. Falling short, but never giving in, no. New England pride, let the passion show. Down defense, giving chase, QBs running 45 in open space, but we keep on pushing, drive after drive, and the soul of the game, and we stay alive. Every tackle, every play, we scream and shout through the ups and downs, devastating bout, holding heads high, even in the loss, bleeding red, white, blue, that's the past cost. Cast, echoing the heartache, the fight. Each game, a battle under the stadium lights. Falling short, but never giving in, no. New England pride, let the passion show. That's cast, yeah, echoing the heartache, the fight. Each game a battle under the stadium lights. Falling short but never giving in, no. New England pride, let the passion show. Let the passion show. Oh, New England pride, let the passion show.